Juneteenth is almost upon us, and the best way to savor the celebration of Black freedom and resilience is to get to know some of the flavors of the African diaspora right here in Vermont. For the next 3 days, we're feeding you mind, body, and soul with a trio of very special guests. Hello, Vermont. As the saying goes, you can take the chef out of the kitchen, but you can't take the kitchen out of the chef. Today, to kick off our Juneteenth exploration of the flavors of the African diaspora right here in Vermont, I have the rare honor of sitting down, no kitchen in sight, with Chef Andrew Gonyon, known to his friends, family, and fans as Pops. You may know Chef Pops from his Milton restaurant, Humble Revelry, or from the Better Days Supper Club. In the last year, he's been busy creating a future vision for his business with support from the African Diaspora Foodways Institute at Clemens Family Farm in Charlotte. And Chef, we have a lot to talk about.
Yes.
I'm excited to have you here. Let's start with you. You grew up in Duxbury. How did you fall in love with food?
Well, you know, food, it was something that I noticed straight away. Like when I started coming into, myself, like who I am and what I want to be, like 10 or 11, I noticed that when people ate something that made them happy, they would really twirl their feet or they would move in their seat.
Yeah.
And then I paid attention to what I was doing when I would eat something. And my mom and dad, the people that raised me and adopted me, she was like that traditional Vermont cook. Stews, chicken, roasted chicken, things that like smelled all day in the house. Yeah. And then you go in and you go out and the smell would change. So for me, food is just built off basically love, care, affection. It's all wrapped into a plate.
Yeah, and it's layers of memory in there too.
100%.
Yeah, your family's roots are really deep in Vermont too.
Yeah, so, I'm lucky enough to be considered, 7th generation and have created an 8th, and we have a grandson, so 9 generations.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It is, and it's something to, it's like what makes Juneteenth so important,
Yeah.
To me, and it's what makes me feel like pride and honor, for being African American, for being Black American, and a Vermonter. How many people can say that?
Yeah, that's a great combination of things.
Right?
See, this is the reason why I knew you were the right person. We needed to kick off these 3 days of shows with you. So talk to me a little bit about your style of cooking. How would you describe your flavors?
So like it starts out with like an apprenticeship at a restaurant, being very traditional and doing things like real proper. Then it goes to like me traveling as much and kind of like running from things and just immersing myself in food. And with that, many trials and tribulations, and I built my life into my recipes. So it's like this, food is therapy. Cooking food, running a restaurant, being in that heat and or the cold or the stress, it's all therapy.
It's an immersive experience.
Yeah, you can't get away.
No, you can't get away. I mean, like you said, like the intensity of being in the kitchen, but then also the proximity to the people who you're feeding, feeling all of their pleasure and enjoyment. Right. Yeah, it's addictive, isn't it?
It is, and it makes you, you can think about things in a different way. You realize that one bite could change a person's day.
Yeah.
And that's different than, it's almost like you're hugging people.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, so I mentioned we're doing these 3 days of shows. And so tomorrow we've got Jules, Chef Jules, who you know from the Institute.
Yes.
She's coming to cook some Jamaican food with us.
Yes.
And then after that, we have Chef Alganish, and she's coming to do some Ethiopian and Eritrean. Can you talk to us a little bit about how like the flavors of Africa and the Caribbean end up in like Black food in the United States and Black cooking?
Well, I think it has to, right? And it's in you, right? So like there's things that my palate absolutely enjoy that maybe yours palate doesn't enjoy, but that comes from inside. That's your DNA. So we can't get away from Black food, especially in America, especially in Vermont. Mac and cheese, Black, right?
Yeah.
So let's just say
that was one of your specialties too, isn't it?
It is. And it's like, it was brought here, James Hemings, there's so much rich history about our food and the stuff that we eat every day that people might not know is Black American, African American, of the diaspora.
You and I were talking about fermentation ahead of this because it's one of the things that you really enjoy. So those like pickled flavors, soured
Right.
flavors, do those have roots in like tradition, like Caribbean traditions,
Well,
African
you know,
traditions?
there's roots in pickling and fermenting in, you could say, in every single style of cooking. It's the levels, you know, and how long things are fermented. For me, it's a great way to actually transport that diaspora style flavor into food. So I love it just because it's old world style. You get to see like bubble in the jar and all that stuff, right? But then you can add, you know, like we have a dust that we make a powdered seasoning. We call it diaspora dust. And that right there transports through vinegar and salt and fermentation really well. It you know, like maybe like effervesces, you know, in your mouth while you're eating it, so you taste the different layers.
Oh God, okay, now you're making me really hungry. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Diaspora Food Institute at Clemens. How did you get to know? How did you get involved?
So it's you know, it goes back to the 7 generations, and one of the things is that this one author, she had known Lydia, and she had mentioned, you know,
Lydia Clemens.
Lydia Clemens. She had mentioned us to Lydia, and then we got a phone call, and it was like, hey, we want to come check you out and see this thing, and you're going to come to a meeting, and you know, so it was all kind of like, you know, just happened.
Yeah.
And you know, through the time of being a part of, you know, the pilot program, what I learned about the restaurant business and about the restaurant business in Vermont is that you really need to have a solid base, and you have to have, you know, like great promotion, you know, and you also have to be able to show what your worth is through, you know, tightening up. That was the greatest part about this program for me. You know, when it comes to food and what I'm going to do with food, there isn't like a
Something that you don't know.
well,
Nothing you don't know.
and like it's hard to be dictated, right? For me, through food, because everything's so natural that's coming out.
Yep, and personal.
So, and personal, right? So for me, this was a great way to tighten that up, you know, and be like, okay, you're gonna have to give a little bit.
Well, what I appreciated too about the Institute is that it's also about making certain that this network of diaspora chefs across Vermont, that they have the professional skills, the business acumen, et cetera, to really make that a part of what the food scene, the food culture in Vermont is like, right? Like making certain that the tourists that come to Vermont like appreciate these different flavors that have been a part of the Vermont tradition.
It's a big part of it, and you know, one of the things that was interesting with you know, this program was going to the Clemens farm, you know, like cooking food in the house, you know, that has all this rich tradition, but being the fact that I come from my DNA is the oldest family in the state, that even raised that level even more. You know, because you're taking a dream, you know, from the 60s, right? And you're bringing that into something that's been here for centuries.
Yeah, that goes all the way back to the 18th century.
Right.
That's pretty remarkable. Okay,
Right.
so talk to us now a little bit more about Juneteenth. Like, tell folks at home, what is Juneteenth about?
So, you know, I think the major thing is that Juneteenth is about tradition, it's about suffrage, and it's about like raising up. You know, like it's not, and it's particular, the holiday, the what signifies it is particular to Black Americans, right? Here, Black Vermonters, but it's also significant to everybody, and that's the big part about Juneteenth that we should really understand, is that it's part of what creates America. You know, you could say the backbone, you could say some things like that, you know? So for me, it's like at the restaurant, you know, when we were up and running like wild, I would do a different special every single day, brand new, created to honor something, whether it was a person, a poet, you know, and it's just it's like a reason for more, how do you say it, education through food.
Yeah. Why is food such an important part of Juneteenth?
Well, because there was a way for, you know, all these years ago in the time of coming up through oppression, there was a way to celebrate without showing that you were celebrating, and you could do it through food. You know, so that's like the stuff that that I'm trying to show, you know, is that there is a recipe that when that was cooked, it meant celebration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you like to serve?
I want to serve anything, you know, like, you know, if you can cook from many different styles, it's all fun and it's amazing. But you know what I want to cook and for people is tradition that they know, taste that they know, but with this extra idea. You know, these extra layers of flavors, stuff that you didn't think about. You know, what herbs are and spices are lipids and play off fat. Like that's, you know, that stuff blows my mind away, and it should blow other people's away when they eat it.
Yeah, yeah. So you've had Humble Revelry and the Better Days Supper Club, and they went through some setbacks basically during this last year while you were working with the Institute. So how did the Institute help during that, and how's it helping what's going to come next?
Well, so there, you know, the setbacks that we had were things that like a car crashing through the front of the restaurant. You wouldn't believe that would happen.
No, you wouldn't believe that could happen. Like, what a Christmas.
Yeah, we were in church, and it was like, what? Really? You know, so you know, we got through that with, like, you know, the support. You know, immediately Catherine and Lydia were calling and saying, is there anything that we can do? You know, there was health things that went on. You know, my heart has taken a beating over the years, and they were there to be like, what can we do? And that's the biggest part. Sometimes you don't actually need somebody to physically do anything for you. What you need is you need to know that they're there and they will have your back. You know, the ability to address those concerns. We had some, like, there was some hate stuff that went on. So it was interesting to be able to talk. Actually, now that I think about it, Lydia Clemens was one of the greatest people for me to talk to in that moment, because there was a lot of fire, and she was like, there's two ways to handle this. And when I thought about it, the way that she was presenting it to me was more of what I was about.
Yeah.
You know, and what Humble Revelry is about.
That's pretty wonderful. Thank you so much for helping us do this today. I really appreciate it. Folks, tomorrow, the celebration continues with more talk about Juneteenth and the African Diaspora Foodways Institute at Clemens Family Farm. As you can tell, it's been really meaningful to everyone who's been involved. We're going to be making jerk chicken with Chef Jules. You don't want to miss that. If you're hungry for more right now and you want to learn more about the Institute and Clemens, the website information is right there. And I'm going to give a plug. While you're there, check out the reading room for a bunch of wonderful cookbook recommendations to help you bring the flavors of the African diaspora into your kitchen on Juneteenth and every day. So Chef Pops, again, thank you so much.
Yes.
And thank you for everything that you have brought to, to all of our bellies.
Thank you.
As always, thank you, Vermont, for learning and exploring with me today, and thanks to the team that makes Across the Fence possible. I'm Amy Finley. This is Across the Fence. Come back and let's learn and explore again tomorrow.